make sure that you're building in that time to renew your mind and to be resting. Resting doesn't have to look like laying on the couch binging Netflix. Like, rest doesn't have to look like sleeping. It doesn't have to look like a spa day. Rest could be, what is it that you love so much that it rests your mind, and make sure you're putting that into your schedule.
You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, best-selling author, and Maxwell Leadership Certified Trainer, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be getting some tips and techniques to advance yourself coming up next. Today's episode is sponsored by the Going North Podcast.com shop. Head over to that wonderful website to pick up some merchandise. We got shirts, hoodies, mugs, t-shirts, flags, notebooks, journals, just about almost everything under the sun, even stickers and buttons indeed for your lanyards and for your decorations as well. And we got multiple designs, advance others to advance yourself. We got the GoingNorthPodcast.com logo as well as outread your competition to outlead your competition. And we even got bags too, so check out the wonderful podcast merch shop and be on the lookout for sales. They got wonderful 35% off sales spread out throughout every single month, so that way you can save even more money, so you can get more bang for your buck, so you can bang out your goals through the inspiration you're going to get today on this podcast. Check it out like a library book, my friends. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors, known as the Going North Podcast, GMP, the great, glorious, and glamorous. It's another one of those occasions where I have another super special, awesome human from across the globe. Who am I kidding? They're right here in the good old state of Maryland, the land of charm, crime, and crab cakes indeed. And funny enough, I met this lady thanks to a guy in Texas, Mr. Good Old Donnie Bovine, who has the wonderful Success Champions Network indeed. So that's right, folks. Some real good business networking indeed. So much networking, the spiders will be jealous indeed, because we got one heck of a super special, awesome guest for you today, my friends, because she's a fellow child of the king, y'all. She's a fellow child of the king. And the good news is she's also a mom, a wife, as well as a corporate executive turned entrepreneur, as well as a coach indeed. And she's also a bookcaster, because she also hosts her own podcast of her own, in addition to publishing her own freaking books. So this lady is always on the move and on the go. So that's right indeed. So let's give it up for the Jill of all trades, because Jack has to step out of the way, the energetic and heavily Erin Harrigan. How you doing today, Erin?
I'm doing great, Dom. That was an incredible introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. Here's the best part of the podcast before the rabbit holes show up. Yeah, that's right indeed. Don't worry, they all don't leave eggs with the ears, just usually the ears. Because the eggs would roll if they appeared with the ears.
That's right.
Yeah, and plus with the ears from the bunnies, we got ears of corn.
You got all the dad jokes tonight.
Yeah, you thought this was a podcast interview. I'm just messing with you. So my goodness, so with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 98.15 days long, and I probably only covered maybe, I don't know, 0.45 of the whole 98% of the 98 days of what makes Erin Erin. So am I filling in any cavities I may have missed about you, and fill in, listeners, how you became the Erin that you are today?
Yeah, sure. I think in a nutshell, my story is an ambitious woman gets lost on her way to the top, finds Jesus. He says, "Why don't you let me drive for a while and hold this map called the Bible?" And then after much pruning, which, as you know, continues throughout our life until we're on the other side and in heaven and standing there with him, he said, "I want you to go and share this with my ambitious daughters, and let your hindsight be their foresight with my insight." And after spending 30 years or so in corporate roles, consulting roles, and then having my own business, which I started in 2010 in multi-level marketing, he shifted me. He shifted me over to coaching, speaking, writing. And it all happened because on a fateful day, October 4th, 2014, I gave him my life. I gave him the reins of my life because I had hit what I thought was rock bottom. And I thought, I don't want to do this by myself anymore. Like this is too much for me to be driving and striving and achievement chasing and self-reliant and trying to take control and be in power over my own life. And that really led me to where I am today. Along the way, of course, prior to that, married, had 2 kids who are now in their 20s, which is crazy to me, and made this incredible shift of how I view and do business to pursue success God's way, is what I call it. And that's where it all came together. I also love tacos. I love the beach. And I love good 80s music and 80s movies. So there's a little extra for you.
Woohoo! Hashtag extra Erin. You love to see it. And the good news is it's the good extra. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. It's the extra extra read all about it because she's an author, y'all. That's right indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And speaking of reading 2010, my goodness, because I read your book, Pursuing Success God's Way, and I have to say it's freaking amazing. Like, my
Mm.
favorite chapters in the book are chapters 5 and 6 when you get into the good stuff indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, 2010, that was the burnout that led you to discover MLM. So, how was that process? Like, were you just so burnt out from corporate America that someone finally got to you? They popped out of the upside down pizza slice and said, "Hey, join me in this pyramid that's not really a pyramid where you'll become a millionaire, maybe."
Yeah, what happened is I had been traveling about every other week up and back to New Jersey. I worked for different companies over my career that provided various marketing and publishing services to the pharmaceutical industry. So most of my clients were in the New Jersey area, and I was leaving my house at 4 a.m. to get on the train by 5:30 a.m. to get to New Jersey by 8 to get to my clients. And it was early in Facebook for me. So I had been posting like, here I am again on the train, like taking a nap in the morning. And I just was just totally tired and overwhelmed. And I was the primary breadwinner at the time. And of course I want to do everything I could for my family. But at the same time, I was also, because I'm so driven, really enamored with the big salary and the big title and all of the big things that come with that. And so a friend of mine invited me to lunch, and she said, "I see you posting constantly about this, that you're tired and you're traveling all the time. And I just wonder, how much longer do you think you can do that?" And of course I was like, well, if I could stop today, I would. And so she shared with me this opportunity, which at my immediate reaction was, well, unless tomorrow I'm going to start making the money that I'm making, like I'm not leaving my job. But the beauty, what is so great about MLM or network marketing or whatever you call it, is the business model, like the distribution of products through people who use the products. And what she helped me understand, and it made so much sense to me, was that I could do this without leaving my job and build this in a way until I could leave my job. And quite honestly, for the first 2 years, I moved really quickly up that ladder to a point that I was at 3 of 4 levels. I had the company car. I had not yet replaced my salary, but in 2012, I was on track in my job to hit 160% to my sales goal. And I was about to sign a $20 million engagement. And it was the week before Thanksgiving, 2012. I had gone to a conference where I had been awarded a leadership volunteer award on behalf of my company. And I came home, and the next day was a Saturday, and I got this weird email that said, "You need to be in Raleigh, North Carolina on Monday. Bring your laptop." And I thought, well, that's weird because like I'm one of the top salespeople. So I flew to Raleigh that Monday. I was fired. And
What?
yeah. And the thing is, Dom, is that because of the pace that I was going that year toward my goal, I was set to get about a six-figure bonus in February of 2013. And my plan was perfect. I'll use that bonus to carry us for, 6 to 12 months, whatever, and I'll leave my job and build out my MLM. And it was what I thought was a foolproof plan because, see, I had no purview that they were going to let me go, that they didn't want to pay me this bonus. All I knew was I'm about to sign this deal. This is going to put us at an incredible place for the team that I was on. So MLM came for me at a time that I was looking for something that could enable me to be available to my family, but make a significant income in the way that the only way I could have made that significant income at the time was working the 60, 70-hour weeks that I was working. And it was great while it was great. And then when I hit a wall in 2014 and my business started to go backwards, that's where I had my fateful conversation, which in my book, I call my mentor the Velvet Hammer. And she is just this really gracious woman who said to me, "You don't need to do more. You just need to give your life to Jesus." And that is really where everything changed.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. It's kind of interesting. It's where sometimes you wonder, it's like, oh, I wonder if this was a trial by fire by the
Mm,
grand design of the grandfather of the universe.
mhm,
It's like,
mhm.
it's like, yep, it's right indeed. Discovered the magical R bond. It's right indeed. A friend looked out for me. It's like, hey, you sell these products, you do well, you're freaking in. It's like, oh man, oh yeah. And there's a mentor too. She's freaking amazing. Hey, what makes
Yeah,
you amazing? Oh, I know Jesus. Who that? Oh, hello.
100%. When I look back on it and I think about the lives that she touched, as driven as I was for the title and the stage and the dollars and all the things, she always said to me, for her mission was reaching women for Jesus, and that God had simply opened a door that she walked through. And it was never her intention to have necessarily the success that she had, but that he had positioned her to reach these really powerful high level women who were at the top of this company, that she was able to reach them because he made her one of them, right? And to look back on that, and even some of the friendships I still have that are spiritual mentors for me today that came through that opportunity, I can't help but think it was his perfect orchestration.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's right. It was a whole symphony on 100. That's right indeed. It was like
Mm,
50 symphonies in one area. That's right
yeah.
indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness. So what led you to become a wonderful book boomer? Because you got this fabulous book out indeed, Pursuing Success God's Way. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's 3 years old at the time when they recorded this.
That's correct. It's so funny. I just put two and two together as I saw the Facebook memory come up, and I thought, oh, I'm talking to Dom today. Like, it's the 3-year birthday. So I was working with a coach in 2018 and 2019, and I believe in coaching. I mean, I am a coach, but I believed in coaching long before I became one because I know that, sometimes you just need somebody else's 30,000 foot view. You need to borrow a business brain that can help you with going to the next level or honing your message or what have you. And I had all this in my brain that I just felt like the Lord wanted me to share. And so when we started working together, she said, okay, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to launch a podcast. And so I launched my podcast in 2019. And then in the summer of 2019, she said, we're working on a retreat. And she said, it's time to write a book. And I said, I'm no. And she said, you already have the content. You have 9 months, or at that point, 8 months of content. Like, you've been podcasting for 8 months now. You've told your story. You've pulled forward everything that God wanted you to share. You've already got the content. So that is where the book started. It was her really just showing me that it was possible. Certainly much prayer and God saying, like, I've already given you what I want you to say. So I started to cull through that content in September of 2019 and really watch him unfold before me what this would look like in print, because not everyone listens to podcasts, and I want to disseminate this message as far and as wide as I could. So the book made total sense, and that's what led me there. It's funny, a lot of times people say, well, you're an author and authors never write one book. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the second book is because I don't have that inkling right now, you know. But the book was never about bestseller status. I mean, I self-published it. I never took it to a publisher. I never did any of those things. I just knew that God said, you need to get this out there. And that's what I did, just in my obedience.
Ah, you'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. So indeed, if y'all ain't grabbed that book yet, y'all need to grab it. Grab some copies. Grab lots of copies. 3 each. That's right, indeed. One for you and two for to give away. Indeed, there's some good stuff in there. That's right, indeed. Because every Christian entrepreneur should really have this book. Because I love. There's like so many things underlined. Like heck, especially the 3 magical D's of the freaking enemy.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, the whole concept. I had read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill and edited by Sharon Lecter while I was in my MLM, in fact. And what struck me about that was how real and how true it is that Satan wants to get us drifting. And those 3 Ds are distraction, discontentment, and doubt. So you mentioned chapter 6 of the book, which is, okay, now I know how to, what I call hustle with heart. I know what those principles are. That's chapter 4. Chapter 5 is like, how do I put that into action? And then chapter 6 is, okay, now you're taking action. Here comes the storm, right? And Satan is so aware that we are on a, I mean, I know this sounds like, you know, Jake and Elwood Blues Brothers, right? Like we're on a mission from God. But
Yeah.
really, I mean, we really are. And he knows that if he could get us drifting, if he can distract us, right? Whether that's looking left and right or wondering, are we doing enough? Or why don't I have what they have? Or really, to me, it's coveting, right? Coveting someone else's success, coveting someone else's audience or reach or following or whatever. If he can get us distracted, if he can get us discontent, why am I not where I thought I'd be by now, Lord? That's a question I used to ask all the time. Like, this is not where I thought I was going, Lord. Like, I was going to the top of that MLM. Why am I not there? Right. So discontented. And then definitely doubtful, right? Like, am I really equipped for this? Am I qualified? Can I stand in a room shoulder to shoulder with some of these leaders that I see online or whatever? He knows that if he can get us drifting off course, that not only will he get us off course, but the struggle of us to get back on course, because we'll try to do it in our own strength and our own power, will take us even longer. And so it will derail us from the work that God's given us to do. And he knows exactly what buttons to push for you. He knows exactly what buttons to push for me. And God allows that because he wants us to turn closer to him. So that 3D drifting was just so impactful for me as I was walking out this journey and in talking to the Christian women that I served, like they all were drifting in some way. And we all do. Please hear me. I am not perfect. I haven't overcome that, and I never will until I'm in heaven. But it is really powerful to understand that we have a true enemy and he wants to derail us.
Ah, yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. They want to derail us, but hey, it ain't gonna freaking happen. This train's gonna keep going. It's gonna keep chewing all the way to freaking heaven. That's right indeed. There's no stopping it.
That's
No
right.
stopping it indeed. So my goodness, so any setbacks along the way on the journey to finally getting your book published?
Oh, for sure. I think first of all, the biggest was just the sheer amount of content that I realized that I had. I was fortunate in that, and I had a great coach who, as I mentioned, pointed out to me that I already had a lot of the content, but what it needed to have was great editing. So the first stumbling block was taking that all of that content and it was like a giant puzzle like what fits where and what chapter and how's this going to flow and all of those things. That was one. And then of course I got this, what I thought was this incredible manuscript, and I hired an editor who tore it apart. I mean, that was so painful because one, it's like your baby and nobody wants to hear that their baby's ugly, right? But two, I think what I underestimated was the need for structure. I had a lot of content, but it didn't have a real format. It didn't have an outline. It didn't have a structure. So she worked through all of that, which once I got over sort of my baby being ugly, she really put the structure around it. But then the next hurdle was we weren't really a good fit for each other beyond that structure. She was amazing at what she did, but she wasn't Christian. So she has a faith background. So she questioned a lot of the scriptural references that I had. And
Oh,
and she
wow.
would ask things like, well, isn't that really, some other book of the Bible? And I'm thinking, I'm looking at my Bible when I'm quoting these scriptures, and I just found that we had a lot of differences from that perspective. So then I found myself parting ways and having to find another editor. Thankfully, the book was at a place where it really needed to be just, grammatically cleaned up and punctuation and that sort of thing. So again, another God moment. I had been introduced months earlier to a woman who one of her side jobs was editing, and she's fantastic at all of the grammar and punctuation. So I was able to engage her, and she blessed me with that, and I blessed her by paying her for the editing. So that was another hurdle. I think the last sort of the home stretch of the hurdles in, I would say, like January, February, was really centered around how does this actually get out there? How do I navigate the Amazon KDP? I had an incredible book designer and layout person who knew some of the process, but not all of the process for KDP. So there was a lot of research going on around there, and places, moments where I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, this is not what I signed up for, you know? But as we got into the home stretch, it actually became, it just was God's. I just kept praying, like, Lord, this is your project. Like, you gave it to me. So you have to help me see it through. He, I believe, handpicked all of the people that were on my book launch team. He gave me the content for the book launch. And again, I wasn't looking for that Amazon bestseller status. I think there was one point on the first day that we reached like number 12 in Christian and spirituality or something like that, and something like maybe like number 30 in entrepreneurship. But I didn't care. I wasn't worried about those numbers. I mean, to me, I'm still excited about those numbers themselves. So I would say to any author, you got to know what you're going into, and you got to know that your work has to be picked apart and edited and reformatted and all the things for it to be a book that people can follow, for it to be a book that people want to write in and highlight. And that's what I wanted. I wanted this to be a book that people could just write notes in and highlight and earmark and all of the things. But there are hurdles to doing that along the way.
Yeah, that's right indeed. So many hurdles. It's like, man, it's like a house of hurdles. That's right indeed. It's like, man, why are so many hurdles appearing? And then the blocks are trying to make me stumble. Oh crap, it's a Lego block. No, I ain't got no shoes. Oh no.
Right?
But hey, you got it done. You got it done. And it's been out for 3 wonderful years indeed. And hey, there's probably another one cooking in that wonderful mind of yours. It's probably haven't even considered yet. Or hey, maybe God's probably going to show it to you soon. It might flash before you. Maybe a Paul to Damascus moment.
That's right.
That's right indeed. Heck, maybe it could be an Aaron to the Wi-Fi moment. It's like, all right, let me press this power button. Oh shoot, the light cable.
Right.
Oh man. So my goodness. I'm not sure if this was chapter 5 or 6 in the book, but like he had a big part of the book where he talked about divine timing and the fact that, like, hey, you gotta remember that biblical effectiveness is a real thing. So my goodness, what led to that discovery? Because my goodness, most folks wouldn't coin together biblical effectiveness with timing at the same time.
Mm. There is a section in the book. I think what you're talking about is like that Kairos versus Chronos time and logic. At the time that I was putting this content together, I was reading a book by Lisa Whittle called I Want God. And in that book, she talks about our need for logic and timing. And what struck me in that was it's so logical that we think things should run by linear time. And what is fascinating, of course, is in the entrepreneur journey. And I imagine the same is true in the author's journey for me. It's never a straight line, right? It's never a straight progression. There's up, there's down, it's squiggly lines, etc. But in our need for logic and linear time, we tend to see two things. One, that we tend to try to see God as like us, like human. And so we put him in a box. And the problem is he cannot be contained. Like he doesn't operate that way. And then we tend to look at time as very chronological. I mean, think about it. Our clocks, our calendars, everything is very chronological. It makes sense. One season flows to another. There's 24 hours in a day. And in Psalm, I think it's in Psalm 90, it says, a day to you is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years a day. And so, and throughout the Bible, it also talks about in due time, which is in perfect time. It's like divine timing. And the word for that is kairos. And what I realized, you talked about this earlier, Dom, is looking back over my journey, I can see these inflection points where someone crossed my path, or I took on an opportunity, or I attended an event, or I spoke at an event, or whatever. And how in each of those moments, while God is present all the time, they led to something that I could not have physically done in my own time. A connection was made, an opportunity was found, or whatever. And that the sooner we realize that because God is sovereign, he already knows the timing and the extent of his plan for every single one of us. The sooner we accept that, the sooner we surrender to that, and the sooner we allow him to truly take control and be the CEO or drive the car, as Carrie Underwood would say, the faster he moves. And while the results and the outcomes don't always look the way we want them to look, if we look back, we can see how he has moved things faster than we could have. He'll take our small step of obedience and he'll exponentially multiply it. And it will move so quickly that it makes our head spin. But it's not something we could have done in our humanness. And that is Kairos timing. And that's really where that came from in the book, is just reading that original book by Lisa Whittle and thinking, what am I trying to be so logical about? Oh, time. And then doing the research into Kairos and Chronos time and realizing this is what in due time means. But we want it now. We're an instant, microwave popcorn drive-through society. Like everything is instant gratification. And so it's hard to slow down, but man, when we do, he'll just blow us away.
Oh, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. It'll be like you'll get your wings. That's right indeed. And they'll be better than Icarus. That's right indeed. They won't burn up and then you'll melt and fall into the ocean. Ah, fam. It's will be high and higher. That's right indeed. It'll be better than Babel. That's right indeed. Won't be confused. That's right indeed. You'll have that grand focus indeed. So my goodness, since you're full of podcast hosts, I gotta ask you an obligatory podcast hosting question. So what would you consider your three biggest lessons learned thus far from starting and growing and managing your podcast thus far?
My three biggest lessons. Number one, get help.
Yeah.
Get help in editing, get help in managing, get help. I can remember like pouring over Apple Garage Band, trying to edit my first episodes. And yeah, so as soon as you can get help, get help. But listen, I mean, if you're somebody that loves to do that editing, by all means do it. I think the overall lesson would be work within your zone of genius, know what you're good at and know what you are not good at. And I am not, I need help with that. So that's number one. Number two, I like to plan my podcasts by themes and by months. So I know what my core content messages are: clarity, serenity, fulfillment, consistency, commitment, and community. So I sort of map that out for the year and then map out my podcast episodes by month. And that enables me to do the research, and it enables me to get into a flow with the topics and plan them out that way. I did throw myself a wrench this year because I used to batch record my podcasts. Like I'd sit down and record, 4 podcasts at a time. Well, this year I started live streaming my podcast. So I live stream on Monday, and then the following Monday, that recording is the podcast audio episode. So for a little while, I was thrown off by the batch planning, but as much as you can plan it in advance, I think where most people get stuck is they're a little bit afraid of the microphone and what they're going to say. And so if you're planning it in advance, even if you just have bullet points for an outline, you're much more prepared for the recording. And then the last thing that I would say is to just be you. Be that, know your identity in Christ and the message that he's given you. Don't look at anybody else. Yes, listen to other podcasts, but God's put that on your heart. And there's a reason he gave you that desire. And it's because he's equipped and qualified for it. So don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to make your podcast sound like someone else's. And don't worry about what other people are doing, because the people that need to hear me are not necessarily the people that need to hear my fellow Christian business coaches. And you have a message that he's given you to deliver. So I think that would be my third lesson.
Woohoo! Preaching deed, sweating deed, preaching deed, sweating deed. Sorry, get that help, y'all. Sweating deed. Yep, a one-man army, a one-woman army. It sounds great. It sounds like a great story, but in all reality, it's annoying, to say the least. It's like, imagine yourself as a cat lady with 20 cats. It's like, oh, another cat. Oh, darn, another episode. All the batching and then the marketing. Here's another cat. It's a cat a day every day. This cat. Oh, yeah, that's right. Repurposing. Oh, yeah, that. I have to do that too. Oh, joy. Yeah.
Right, right.
That's right, indeed. And then you think you become the microphone, and then you'll start saying meow. That's right. Oh man. So my goodness, if your wonderful book, Pursuing Success God's Way, if that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, it would be a taco. I mean, come on. Right? Here's why. Here's why. There's this meme that says, it's okay to fall apart sometimes. Tacos fall apart and we still love them.
Yeah.
So that's the Hustle with Heart journey, right? It's about surrender. It's about self-reliance. It's about dying to self every day to allow the Lord to stand us up, to allow his power and his strength. And to me, I mean, that's right. Like tacos just want to, they show up. They're full of goodness. They're just there to be enjoyed. And sometimes they fall apart, but we still love them. And you know what? Oh, I love this. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Sometimes we fall apart, but the Lord still loves us. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. That's right, indeed. Told you this interview is going to be as good as 5 Cheerios boxes. It's going to be good. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
Ooh. The advice that I would give is make time to rest. You don't have to accomplish it all today.
Ah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. Powerful message right there. 'Cause it's like, yep, folks trying to be ultra busy and get 9 days of work done when there's only 7 days in a week. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's right indeed. Rest your body. That's right indeed. Sleep good for you. Helps you stay normal. That way you won't be short with people. And then you wake up the following day, and then you'll be the chameleon trying to be a gecko. And then in reverse.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's about, God gave us a Sabbath for a reason, right? And we overlook that because we're so concerned about getting to the next level or the next thing, or I need to be at this place in my life. And, at 25, man, just like, yes, work. I'm not saying don't work, but make sure that you're building in that time to renew your mind and to be resting. Resting doesn't have to look like laying on the couch binging Netflix. Like, rest doesn't have to look like sleeping. It doesn't have to look like a spa day. Rest could be, what is it that you love so much that it rests your mind? And make sure you're putting that into your schedule. Make sure you're putting that into your career plan and your strategy. Because before you know it, you'll be 55 and you'll wish you had rested more.
That's right indeed. The grown-ups are right about nap time. It's like, yep, as a kid, thinking, oh, nap time? What's that? I got all this energy. I'm amazing. Turn 25. Oh, yeah. Who needs nap time and rest?
Right.
I'm just going to the next level, dang gummit. 55, it's like, ugh, the hell? What?
Right. I used to say to my kids, like, I wish somebody would make me take a nap. Like, come on. I wish my boss at the time would come into my office and be like, oh, it's nap time. Like, one day you were going to wish you had nap time.
Heck yeah. But if there's any bosses listening to this that can do that, do it. Your employees will thank you and they'll think you're pulling a prank on them. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But hey, it ain't about pulling pranks or pulling rank. It's all about pulling in yourself closer to your purpose that God's given you indeed. And the good news is you only heard probably, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2% of what Erin has to offer. So for those who need to dive into the other 98% and keep up with your journey and all the stuff that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to do so, Erin?
Yeah. The best way for them to do that is to go download my free tool, because that will lead you to my website. It will lead you to my email list. It will lead you to the podcast, all the things. So go to erinharrigan.com/4 keys, KEYS. And that will lead you to download my 4 keys to redefine hustle tool. It'll put you on my email list. It'll give you a heads up on the podcast episodes that come out every week. That's the best way to do it.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Gonna put a link to that in the show notes, indeed, so that way you can get the 4 Alicia keys, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Redefine that hustle. That's right, indeed. Hustle is not working 32 hours out of a day. It ain't happening. That's right, indeed. Get some Z's. Treat yourself well. That's right, indeed. Find some time for spiritual development. That's right, indeed. Get some quiet in you. Avoiding those screens. Your eyes will thank you later. Heck, your brain too, because stimulation meters are at 100 all day now. It's insane. Oh man. Well, any parting words before I close up shop, Erin?
Just I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you so much. I know that you interview really incredible authors, and I'm just joyful to know that you've included me in that. And I simply would say, if you feel like you've got a book in you, you do. Talk to somebody about it, get yourself a coach, whatever that looks like, or just start writing and keep doing it, because you have a message inside of you that people need.
Thanks a bunch for investing your time by listening to this wonderful podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review, or share this episode with at least 3 people that you think would get some value out of today's content. Advance others to advance yourself.